3 scoops a day. That's what almost 40% of gym goers are doing right now, according to survey data on supplement use. Not protein powder, not pre-workout, a white, mostly flavorless powder that's been sitting quietly on supplement shelves since the 1990s and somehow still confuses more people than almost anything else in fitness. Some people swear it's the closest thing to a legal shortcut in the gym. Others are convinced it wrecks your kidneys, bloats you like a water balloon, and might even be why they can't outlift their gym buddy. Almost none of them can actually explain what it's doing inside their muscle cells. So today, we're not doing another top 5 supplements list. We're going inside the muscle, down to the actual molecule, to look at what creatine appears to do once it's in your system, what the research does and doesn't support, and where a lot of the internet's favorite claims fall apart. Quick note before we start. This video is for general education, not medical advice. Always talk to a doctor before starting any new supplement, especially if you have an existing health condition. Let's get into it.
Here's the first surprise. Your body already makes creatine. You don't need a tub of powder to have it in your system. Your liver, kidneys, and pancreas produce roughly 1 gram of creatine per day, synthesizing it from 3 amino acids, arginine, glycine, and methionine. On top of that, most people get another gram or so daily from food, mainly red meat and fish. So supplementing with creatine isn't introducing some foreign compound to your body. It's topping off a system that's already running. The way adding gas to a half-full tank doesn't change how the engine works, it just gives it more fuel to draw from. And that fuel framing is actually the most accurate way to think about it, because creatine's entire job in the body comes down to one thing: energy. Inside every muscle cell, the molecule your body actually burns for quick energy is called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Think of ATP like a battery. When your muscle contracts, it spends that battery by breaking off one of its 3 phosphate groups, turning ATP into ADP. The problem is, your muscles only store enough ATP for about 8 to 10 seconds of high-intensity efforts. After that, your body needs a way to rapidly recharge that battery, and this is where creatine comes in. Roughly 95% of your body's creatine is stored in skeletal muscle, mostly in a form called phosphocreatine. And phosphocreatine's entire job is to donate its phosphate group back to ADP, regenerating it into ATP almost instantly. This is called the phosphocreatine system, or the ATP-PCr system, and it's considered the fastest way your body regenerates energy, faster than burning carbs, faster than burning fat. The trade-off is that your stores are limited, which is why it's most relevant for short, explosive efforts, a heavy squat, a sprint, a jump, rather than a 45-minute jog. Supplementing with creatine appears to increase the amount of phosphocreatine stored in muscle by an estimated 10 to 40%, depending on your starting levels. More stored phosphocreatine means your muscles can regenerate ATP more rapidly during those short, intense bursts, which is the proposed mechanism behind most of creatine's studied effects. That's it. That's the whole secret. It's not magic, it's not a hormone, it's not unnatural. It's a fuel buffering system that research suggests you can top off.
This is where things get interesting, because the research on creatine is some of the most extensively studied territory in all of sports nutrition, with hundreds of trials going back over 3 decades. A large body of research, including meta-analyses, pooling dozens of studies, suggests that creatine supplementation combined with resistance training may lead to modestly greater gains in strength and lean muscle mass compared to resistance training alone. Some researchers estimate the difference at somewhere in the range of 5 to 15% greater strength gains over 4 to 12 weeks of training, though results vary a lot between studies and individuals. It's worth pausing on that. This isn't a video suggesting creatine turns you into a different person overnight. The consistent theme across the research is modest but real, a nudge, not a shortcut. The actual heavy lifting, pun intended, still comes from training and diet. As for why it might help, the leading theory is twofold. First, that extra phosphocreatine may let you push out an extra rep or 2 per set by recharging ATP faster between efforts. Second, some research points to creatine possibly increasing water content inside muscle cells, which some scientists hypothesize could act as a signal that promotes protein synthesis. That second mechanism is still considered an area of ongoing research, not settled fact.
Okay, Now let's talk about the stuff your cousin's gym buddy told you. Because creatine might be the most rumor-soaked supplement on the market, and some of these myths have them repeated so often people treat them as established fact. Let's actually check them against the evidence. Myth number 1. Creatine wrecks your kidneys. This is probably the single most repeated claim, and it appears to trace back to isolated case reports and to studies conducted on people who already had pre-existing kidney disease, not healthy individuals. In healthy people with normal kidney function, multiple long-term studies, including some tracking usage for up to 5 years, have not found evidence of kidney damage from standard creatine doses. That said, this is genuinely a case where the disclaimer matters. If you already have kidney disease or any condition affecting kidney function, this changes the risk calculation, and it's worth discussing with a doctor first. Myth number 2. It's just water weight, it's not real muscle. This one's partially true, which is what makes it tricky. Creatine does draw more water into muscle cells. That part is well documented. But researchers increasingly view that intracellular water as potentially part of the mechanism, not a separate side effect from real gains. Some of the scale weight increase in the first week is genuinely water. Over months of consistent training, though, studies tracking body composition suggest the additional gains go beyond water retention alone.
Myth number 3. Creatine causes hair loss. This myth largely traces back to a single 2009 study on rugby players that found an increase in a hormone called DHT, which is linked to hair loss in genetically predisposed individuals. But that study never actually measured hair loss itself, and it has not been well replicated since. Current evidence on this specific link is considered thin and inconclusive, not a proven cause and effect relationship. Myth number 4. You need to load creatine or it won't work. The loading protocol, high doses for about a week, then a smaller daily maintenance dose, does appear to saturate muscle stores faster. But research suggests a smaller daily dose taken consistently reaches roughly the same saturation point, just over about 3 to 4 weeks instead of 1. Same destination, different speed. Here's something that rarely makes it into the hype videos. Not everyone responds to creatine the same way. Some research suggests that individuals who already have naturally higher muscle creatine stores, which can vary based on diet, genetics, and muscle fiber composition, may see a smaller benefit from supplementation, sometimes described in the literature as non-responders. Vegetarians and vegans, who typically start with lower baseline creatine stores due to less dietary intake, are sometimes observed in studies to show a comparatively larger response when they begin supplementing. This is one of the more honest parts of the research. Creatine isn't guaranteed to do the same thing for every single person, and starting point appears to matter.
Here's where it gets genuinely interesting, and where a newer wave of research has been growing over the last decade. Your brain, like your muscles, relies on the same ATP energy system, and it also stores phosphocreatine. Some early-stage research has explored whether creatine supplementation might support cognitive performance, particularly under conditions of stress, sleep deprivation, or mental fatigue, since those situations may temporarily tax the brain's energy reserves. A handful of small studies have reported potential improvements in short-term memory and reasoning tasks under these fatigued conditions specifically, not necessarily in well-rested, healthy individuals under normal conditions. This is still considered an emerging area of research, with much smaller sample sizes than the strength and muscle literature, so it's far from settled. Researchers studying aging and neurodegenerative conditions have also expressed interest in this mechanism, but it's important to be clear that creatine is not an approved treatment for any brain disease or condition. This is still investigational science, not a proven therapy. So let's go back to that opening scene. 3 scoops a day, mystery powder, gym mythology swirling around it. Strip away the hype and the fear, and what's actually sitting in that tub is one of the most heavily studied, well-understood molecules in your entire body's energy system. Not a steroid, not a stimulant, not a shortcut. Just a way of topping off a fuel tank you were already running on.
A few things the current body of research seems to generally agree on. Commonly studied doses in research are often in the range of 3 to 5 grams per day, though individual needs may vary, and this isn't a personalized recommendation. Creatine monohydrate is the form most extensively studied. Other forms exist, but research support for added benefits over monohydrate is currently limited. Effects appear most closely tied to consistency over time, not any single dose or single workout. Staying adequately hydrated is often recommended by researchers and clinicians when using creatine, given its effect on water content in cells. People with existing kidney conditions, other medical conditions, or those who are pregnant or breastfeeding should speak with a doctor before starting any supplement, including this one. At the end of the day, creatine isn't a mystery substance, and it isn't a miracle either. It's a well-documented piece of how your body already makes and spends energy, and the research, as extensive as it is, still keeps finding new corners to explore, especially outside the muscle. If you found this useful, let us know in the comments what supplement myth you want debunked next. We read every single one.